Have you ever been in a room with a child who's about to have a meltdown and you could just feel it coming? Maybe the lip quivers, the fists ball up, and the yelling starts, sometimes over something as small as the wrong color cup. And maybe you looked at your son or daughter, the child's parent, and saw the frustration on their face too. It's tough. It's loud. And in that moment, it's hard to know what to do. Now, if you're anything like me, you've probably found yourself thinking, it wasn't like this when we were raising our kids. And in some ways, that's true. Back then, we didn't talk as much about emotions or how to express them. We just handled it the best we could and hoped they'd grow out of it. But these days, our children, your son, your daughter, maybe even your grandchildren's teachers, they're raising kids in a world that moves faster, feels louder, and asks a lot more of little hearts. And those little hearts? They haven't quite figured out what to do with all those big feelings. That's why I wanted to make this video. Because you, as a grandparent or elder loved one, have a chance to be an anchor for the younger generation, both the kids and the parents. You have wisdom, patience, and a perspective that's hard to find in the heat of the moment. And believe it or not, there are some simple, gentle ways you can help your child, your grown-up child, support their kids emotionally without the shouting, the chaos, and the dreaded tantrums. We're going to walk through 6 of these today. But more than just a list, I want to talk with you like we're sitting on a porch swing, coffee in hand, sharing stories and figuring this out together. Because that's what this really is, family helping family. So let's get started with the first thing that can make a world of difference. The first, and maybe most powerful, way to help a child manage big emotions is by staying calm yourself. Now I know, that sounds almost too simple. But let me tell you, it's anything but easy in the middle of a tantrum. When a little one is screaming, hitting, or sobbing uncontrollably, our instinct is to react. Maybe to raise our voice, or to say, "Stop crying," or "That's enough." But here's the thing, young children can't regulate their emotions on their own yet. Their little brains are still developing the part that helps them calm down. So when they're having a meltdown, they're not being dramatic or manipulative, they're overwhelmed. And what they need most in that moment is a calm, steady presence. Think of yourself like a lighthouse in a storm. You don't have to fix everything. Just being calm and grounded gives them something to cling to. I remember when my grandson was about 4, he had this phase where if he didn't get the exact bedtime story he wanted, the tears would start. My daughter would get flustered, trying to reason with him. One night, I just sat beside him, rubbed his back, and said, "I hear you, buddy. That book means a lot to you." And just like that, the storm started to pass. Not because I fixed it, but because I didn't fight it. So the next time you're with your grandchild, or even supporting your child as they deal with their little one, remember that your calm is contagious. A deep breath, a soft voice, and a gentle presence can go a long way in helping the whole house take a breath. Now let's talk about something else that often gets overlooked, validating their feelings. Again, it sounds simple, but it's easy to miss when you're in the moment. Picture this, your granddaughter is sobbing because her toy broke, and your instinct might be to say, "It's just a toy, don't cry." That's not meant to be harsh, it's what we often say to comfort. But to her, that toy wasn't just a toy. It might have been her best friend, her imaginary horse, her dragon slayer. When we brush off their feelings, even with the best intentions, what they hear is, "Your feelings don't matter." But when we say something like, "Oh no, I can see how upset you are about that," it tells them, "Your feelings are real, and it's okay to feel them." That doesn't mean we agree with every outburst. It just means we're helping them name what they're going through. And naming emotions? That's powerful. When a child hears, "You're feeling frustrated because your block tower fell," they start learning the words for what's happening inside. And once they have the words, the feelings aren't quite so big anymore. Imagine if someone had done that for us when we were little, given us the tools to say, "I'm sad," instead of just bursting into tears and being told to stop. One of my favorite things to do with my youngest grandchild is what we call feeling check-ins. Nothing fancy. Just sitting down and saying, "What's your heart feeling today?" Sometimes she says happy. Sometimes she says angry and we draw a picture of it. And other times, she doesn't know, and that's okay too. The point is, we're making space for the feelings before they build up into something bigger. When we combine calmness with emotional validation, we're creating a safe space for our children and grandchildren to feel, to process, and to learn. It doesn't stop all tantrums overnight, but it lays a foundation of trust and understanding that lasts a lifetime. So whether you're helping out after school, watching the kids on weekends, or simply chatting with your adult child about their parenting struggles, remember this: your presence, your patience, and your wisdom are powerful. You don't need fancy parenting books or modern lingo. Just your calm, your listening ear, and your open heart. Now that we've talked about the power of staying calm and validating feelings, let's take a look at another way we can gently guide those little hearts through their big emotions. Another simple but incredibly helpful way to support a child through those big, overwhelming emotions is by teaching them what to do before the meltdown happens. This is something that might feel a bit new if you weren't raised this way yourself. But I promise, it can make a world of difference. It's all about helping them understand their feelings in the quiet moments, not just reacting in the loud ones. Think about it like this: if someone handed you a fire extinguisher and said, "Here, you'll need this when the fire starts," but didn't show you how to use it until your kitchen was already in flames, well, it wouldn't be very helpful, would it? It's the same with emotions. Kids don't know how to handle frustration or sadness unless we talk about it when things are calm. That's where what I like to call emotion coaching comes in. It's not fancy, and it doesn't require a degree. It just means taking those everyday moments, like a car ride, a bedtime routine, or even playing with blocks, and using them to talk about what feelings look and feel like. For example, when you're reading a storybook together and a character feels scared, you might say, "Have you ever felt like that? What do you think she needs right now to feel safe?" These little questions open the door. They plant seeds. And over time, your grandchild starts to connect the dots between their feelings and their behavior. I remember with my oldest granddaughter, she had a tough time with disappointment. If something didn't go her way, she'd shut down or lash out. So we started talking about a little toolbox in her mind. Not a real one, of course, but an imaginary set of tools she could use when she felt upset. We came up with a few ideas together, taking 3 deep breaths, squeezing her hands, asking for a hug. She even drew a picture of it and stuck it on the fridge. Now, the next time she felt those big feelings rising, instead of spiraling into a tantrum, she'd pause and say, "I think I need one of my tools." That small shift, naming the feeling and choosing a response, gave her power. And you know what? It gave her parents a little breathing room too. That leads us right into something else that can really help, creating routines and predictability. Now, I know this might sound a little odd when we're talking about emotions, but hear me out. Kids thrive on structure, even if they fight it. When their world feels predictable, they feel safe. And when they feel safe, they're less likely to have emotional outbursts. Think back to when your own kids were small. How important were bedtime rituals, dinner routines, or knowing what came next in the day? It might have seemed small then, but it was providing something deeply comforting, certainty in an uncertain world. Today's world moves fast, and for little ones, that can feel overwhelming. Screens, noise, activities, sometimes it's just too much. Having even just a few anchor points in the day, a morning cuddle, an afternoon walk, a bedtime song, helps them feel secure. And that security is what gives them the space to manage their emotions more smoothly. Even as grandparents, we can create these little routines during our time with them. Maybe it's always baking cookies on Saturday or reading a story on FaceTime before bed. These moments aren't just sweet memories, they're emotional guideposts. I had a dear friend who kept a small box of calm-down items for her grandson. It wasn't anything fancy, just a soft blanket, a few favorite books, a little music box. Whenever he started to feel overwhelmed, she'd say, "Let's visit our quiet corner." At first, he resisted, like most kids do. But over time, it became his safe space, a part of his routine where he knew he could go to reset. It wasn't about punishment or timeout. It was about learning to pause and breathe. You see, When we offer these gentle patterns, calmness, validation, proactive teaching, and structure, we're doing something powerful. We're showing kids that emotions aren't scary, and they don't have to be explosive. They're just messages. And if we listen closely, those messages tell us what our little ones need. And this is where your role becomes even more special. You might not be there for every mealtime or bedtime, but your presence carries weight. Your voice matters. And when you talk to your child, your grown-up child, about what you're noticing, about how you're trying new ways to support their kids, it opens the door for conversation. It shows them they're not in this alone. Parenting today can be exhausting. There's so much pressure, so many opinions, and so little time to just breathe. When you, as a grandparent, show up with calmness, consistency, and compassion, it's like offering a warm blanket on a cold day. You might not have all the answers. You don't need to. Just being there, asking, "How can I help?" or "Would it be okay if I tried this?" can be enough. So, if you ever feel unsure, or wonder if you're still making a difference, remember this: every time you help a child name a feeling, every time you model patience in the middle of chaos, every time you lend a kind ear to a tired parent, you are shaping a stronger, more emotionally healthy generation. And that brings us to another gentle shift we can make when helping kids navigate those emotional storms. And that next shift is about giving children choices whenever possible. Now, I know that might raise an eyebrow. You might be thinking, aren't kids already calling the shots too much these days? And I get that, it's a fair concern. But what I'm talking about isn't letting them run the show. It's about offering small, age-appropriate choices that help them feel a sense of control without turning the whole house upside down. Because here's the truth, tantrums often come from feeling powerless. Kids don't get to choose much in their day. Adults decide when they wake up, what they eat, where they go, and when it's time to stop playing. For little ones still learning to manage emotions, that constant stream of decisions made for them can be frustrating, and sometimes that frustration boils over. But when you offer even tiny choices, like would you like the red cup or the blue one, or do you want to put your shoes on now or after we read a story, you're giving their brain a chance to engage instead of react. You're giving them a sense of dignity, and that helps dial down the drama. I saw this firsthand with my neighbor's grandson. He used to scream and throw himself on the floor every time it was time to clean up. One day, she tried something different. Instead of saying, "Clean up now," she asked, "Do you want to start with the blocks or the cars?" He still didn't love the idea, but his little body didn't tense up the same way. The choice gave him just enough ownership to cooperate. Now, that doesn't mean choices fix everything. Sometimes the answer will still be no. But the more we build choice into daily life, especially around routines, the more kids feel respected and heard. And when they feel respected, they're more likely to listen in return. That brings us to one of the most powerful tools we have, not just as parents and grandparents, but as human beings, modeling. Children are always watching, and they learn so much more from what we do than what we say. That includes how we handle our own emotions. If we raise our voices when we're upset, they'll think that's the way to express frustration. If we shut down when something hard happens, they'll mirror that too. But if we take a breath, speak calmly, and admit when we're struggling, they learn something entirely different. They learn that emotions aren't something to fear or hide, they're something to work through. I'll never forget one afternoon when I was babysitting my grandson. I was tired, he was cranky, and we were both getting irritated over something silly. He wanted juice, but we only had milk. I felt myself about to snap, and then I caught it. I knelt down, looked him in the eye, and said, "You know what, buddy? Grandma's feeling frustrated right now. I think I need to take a big breath before I talk." And that little boy looked up at me, nodded, and took a breath with me. He didn't melt down. I didn't lose my cool. We both just reset. That moment stuck with me because it reminded me that we're not just guiding our kids and grandkids, we're growing right alongside them. And that's okay. It's okay to say, "I don't have all the answers." It's okay to mess up, to apologize, to learn and try again. In fact, that might be the greatest lesson we can pass on, that emotional growth never stops. Not at 5 years old. Not at 65. Not ever. So if you're watching this and thinking, I wish I'd known this when my kids were little, I want you to know something: it's never too late to make a difference. Whether your grandkids are toddlers or teens, whether your own children are struggling or thriving, your presence matters. Your willingness to grow, to learn new ways of connecting, is a beautiful gift to the whole family. Because what this all comes down to: calm presence, emotional validation, proactive teaching, routine, choice, and modeling, isn't a parenting trend or a quick fix. It's a way of showing up for each other with kindness and curiosity. It's about building a home, a family, where feelings are not something to fear but something to understand. So as you go about your day, whether you're watching grandkids for an afternoon or just picking up the phone to talk with your adult child, keep this in mind: your words matter. Your actions matter. Your quiet support in the background might be just what your child needs to stay steady in the hard moments. And if you've ever felt like you're just on the sidelines now that your parenting days are over, let me gently say this: you're not on the sidelines. You're a lifeline. You bring experience, compassion, and calm that only time can teach. You offer a sense of rootedness in a world that's always moving. And just by listening, by caring, by trying, you're shaping how the next generation understands love and resilience. And isn't that what we all want, really? To raise children, our own and our grandchildren, who know how to feel deeply without being overwhelmed. Who know it's okay to be sad, angry, or afraid, and who also know how to come back to center. You don't need fancy techniques or the latest parenting app. Just your steady presence, your open heart, and a willingness to see emotions not as problems to fix, but as chances to connect.